Hi, my name is Rachel from Neon Moon Sewing Company, and I am so excited to share my world of train cases with you today. Let me get started by telling you a little bit about me and my journey into what I have created, this wall of 72 train cases behind me. In 2020, in kind of the peak of the pandemic, I decided to reline a train case that I used for sewing notions and travel sewing kit that had been given to me from my grandma, from my great grandma. So this train case was my family heirloom. I loved it. I have always been really drawn to vintage stuff and vintage luggage in particular. And so I was excited to find a way to incorporate that in my day to day life. Now, I used this train case for probably 10 years before I decided it was time to give it a new life. It was serving its purpose, but the inside was tattered and torn and had just kind of lived its best life. If you recall that period of time during the pandemic when we were all stuck at home and we were really trying to find a way to enjoy our time with our family, but also be creative and not feel so stuck, I decided that was the time to start this train case project. So I didn't really know anything about relining anything or reupholstering anything, but I thought, you know what, it can't be that hard. Let me just try it out and see. And I fell in love. I was so excited to have the opportunity to breathe new life into something that had been around for so long. To me, honoring vintage pieces is a really important part of, kind of nodding to our history and like just enjoying the fact that these things have been around for a long time and structurally they're still sound. They have a long life ahead of them. And if we breathe new life into them, how much longer will they be around? You know, in a world that throws away a lot of stuff, a big impact we can make is by figuring out how to enjoy the things that we have and revamp them. That's why I started teaching how to reline train cases. I thought, I can't reline every train case for every customer. Why not empower people through the art of creating their own? Let me introduce you to my very first train case. This was really just a shot in the dark. It was me just trying something new and not being afraid to make mistakes. If you look at this in person, there are tons of mistakes. Things I wouldn't do the same if I was to redo it. I look at this and I think, oh, I could reline it, but it's doing a great job. It's been 4 years. It's still intact. It's holding up just fine. And I'm going to leave it that way until it needs to be refreshed again. One of the things that I learned in this is to get creative, use what you have, and really just be patient with yourself. Learning something new can be really exhausting because we have that fear. What if we fail? What if we make a mistake? What if we look back and regret? You know what? It's life. Accept those mistakes and move forward. I look at this and I see lots of mistakes, but I also see how far I've come. I look at this and I think, wow, I don't do that anymore because I looked at the way I had done it and decided there was a better way. And even in some of my teaching methods, I have students who might be bag makers and have been doing that for 2 or 3 decades. They are experts in that area and they have taught me how to do things better in my processes. So when you're learning, remember to listen to those around you and kind of honor their experience as well, because they might have excellent advice for you. Now, if you're looking at this, you might notice these don't look like cotton fabrics, and that's because they're not. This is a laminated cotton fabric, so I used a laminate here on the top, and this is a voile on the bottom that I had lined with cotton, because if you have ever used voile, it is very thin and just really luxurious, but it's very see-through. So I lined it with a white cotton, and I used poster board on all of this. I don't use poster board anymore because I want long-lasting finishes that won't discolor my fabric, and so I tried to make sure that I'm using acid-free products. At the time, this was not, and I also used hot glue, and if you're experienced with hot glue, you know it isn't a long-lasting product either, so I don't use that anymore, but it's a lesson learned. So this is my very first relining that I had done, and I hope you love it as much as I do. If you're ready to get started relining a train case, one of the questions that you might be asking yourself is, how do I know what to get? There's a whole wall behind me of different styles of train cases, and that can be the scariest part about it, picking one. So here are my tips for picking a train case, even if you're doing it online. Some of the things that you want to avoid are tears in the stitching. This little green train case, if you watch my channel, you'll see me refer to this as an unbranded train case. That's because typically they don't have any brand markings on them. Sometimes you'll see here on the top, it may say Trojan, it may say JCPenney, but typically they're unbranded. But what you can see here is all these little tufts right here are broken stitching, and that's because this stitching has dry rotted. If I were to pop my finger along some of these other stitches down here, they just tear right apart. This is an indication that this train case will have to be rethreaded before I reline it. Now, the rethreading process, it's not hard to grasp and do, but it is physically demanding and time consuming. So it is something that I do, but it's not something that I would recommend for someone that may have issues with dexterity or grip strength. It's really tough on your fingers, even when you have the right tools to do it. So that is one thing that I would avoid. If you're looking online and you see a lot of broken stitches, maybe skip that one unless it's a true beauty and you just can't pass it up. Something to keep in mind though is sometimes you might see 1 or 2 broken stitches, and that's okay. You just don't want a long gap of broken stitches, because that means this top piece is going to separate from this side piece. So just keep that in mind when you're picking your train cases. Other things that I look out for are damages to the feet and the hardware. Those are areas that are kind of harder to replace as a novice crafter. And so I would say if you see something that you're thinking, I don't know, that might be a little bit too difficult for me to replace, go ahead and skip it if you can find one that is something you can tackle. When I'm looking at the outside, discoloration isn't as scary to me because sometimes all it needs is a little cleaning up. But if there's a dent or a gouge, I think, how can I give that new life? Sometimes we might see gouges and we know we can't repair them, but what can we do to make them a little less noticeable? Now, I don't always worry about making the outside pristine, beautiful, brand new condition, because when I look at a train case, I think, how can I honor the journey it's been on while taking it on a journey into the future? One of the ways you can do that is putting a sticker over it, maybe even painting something beautiful on the outside. I'm not a painter, so you won't see many painted by me on the outside, but there are a lot of other people who paint the outside and they are absolutely beautiful. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if you have never tried them. When I'm looking at my interior, I don't care about any of this discoloration. And you know, sometimes you'll get it and it will smell to high heaven, and I don't worry about that either. There are a lot of things you can do on the inside to knock down those smells. When I'm looking at the inside, I'm just making sure that everything is intact in terms of the actual case. Even if there was no lining here or the lining was ripped up, I'm going to take that out. So really, I don't worry about the lining. I just look to make sure that my metal pieces are intact and in good working order. Looking at the way the lid opens and closes, if you can see it or maybe they can video it, that's an important part too, because a lot of the times people will carry their train cases with the lid open, and the result is the lid gets tweaked, and that can be kind of hard to fix. It is fixable, but if this is your very first train case, maybe skip that one and find one that's in good working condition. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I am a sucker for one particular style of train case, and that is this one. And honestly, in this color, I absolutely love the Starline or Lady Baltimore style train cases. And you can see I have some vintage ads from the Lady Baltimore company just because I love this style. Not only is it a good nod to the Art Deco style, these long hardware pieces just are simply darling to me. The exterior is so durable and the inside is top notch. The way that these are put together, I love. It's not super rounded, so it's easy to reline, but it's made of wood. The reason why these have been around forever and are still around and older than me are because this is wood. So I love relining these. The shapes are simple to reline, but this wood feature just makes it so much better for me. I feel like it is really holds quite the bit of space in there, but it structurally is wonderful. And if you look at some of the pictures of my wall, you can see that I'm a sucker for these because I have so many of these red ones. Now, I will say, when you're looking at the red colors of train cases, you may see some dark saturation in the red, and you will not be able to remove that. That is a discoloration that has occurred in the vinyl, and I've tried 1,000 different ways to treat it, and it's there for life. So I look at it and I embrace it and say, it's been on a journey before me and it's going to go on a journey with me. And that's just a part of who it is. I'm not perfect. I'm not without flaw or wrinkle, and neither is it. And that's okay because I'm learning to embrace everything about my train case. Probably my most requested train case is the purple American Tourister. Now, you might be looking at this saying, that looks kind of pink to me. And here's the trick. This train case looks different in every light. If you know anything about color, color is not 100% the same in every light. Light changes the hue and the tone of color all the time. It's about perception. So I have taken this particular train case and photographed it in 3 or 4 different lighting, and you'll see that it may look purple, it may look pink. Here's the deal. It's purple. It's a very beautiful lavender shade, but this is also one of the trickier, hardest ones to reline. The classes that I teach that go over relining the American Tourister style are kind of longer because it has this unique rounded shape, and there are some tricks to getting the perfect relining on the inside to accommodate for those curves. The other thing is you'll see here, there are rivets that go through the train case that hold the tray in place. And I share my tips and tricks on how to navigate and tackle these. And sometimes that can be hard if you've never done this before. It can be kind of like, what are you going to do about that? Well, that's where I come in. I've done plenty of these, and I share all the insights with you in my American Tourister relining classes. Now you'll see the inside of this looks pretty similar to all the other ones. It might have a mirror, it might not. This one, I have already removed the mirror, but it is just beautiful. It's also very wide. It's very bubbly. I love them all. I love something about every single one of them. And it's really hard to tell you, don't buy this one or buy this one. Really, I love them all, and I could recommend a different one for you for every single purpose in your life. One of the reasons why I teach how to reline train cases is because of the family heirloom aspect of these train cases. So many people I know have an old piece of luggage sitting in an attic right now that they don't want to part with because it was their aunt's or it was their grandma's, and it means a lot to them, and they don't want to see it go right into the trash can. That's why I teach how to reline it. You might not just be relining train cases for yourself. You may be relining train cases for people in your community. And I feel like it is just really important that we recognize how valuable of an asset it is to be able to take these vintage pieces and give them new life. Take them out of the attic and do something awesome with them. You may also be wondering, what do you do with it after you reline it? Why? Well, let me tell you, I have a toolbox, another toolbox that has my hot glue gun, my different arts and crafts. I have customers that use theirs for stationery, stickers, things like that. You might use it for its traditional purpose, which is a travel makeup kit. You may use it for gaming pieces. You may use it to store cords. You may use it just to be a part of your home decor. You might even use it as a Christmas decoration and fill it with little bristle brush Christmas trees. The options are really endless, and I love to hear about how you've creatively repurposed your train cases. This beautiful, let's see, this one's a Starline. So Lady Baltimore and Starline are owned by the same company, the Lady Baltimore Luggage Co., but the name is interchangeable. This is one that I have relined, and you'll see that on the inside here, this is coated with vinyl so that whoever enjoys this train case doesn't have to worry about if something spills in the bottom. They can just wipe it right up. It's easy to clean. It has new pockets because, you know, elastic that's been sitting around for a while is not going to be good anymore. This one features a really fun kind of mid-century-esque kitty vibe. I love how kind of abstract and simple it is, but it has those pops of fun color. You can be as creative as you want to be when you reline your train cases. You might pick one fabric, you might pick 20. I have done piecing the lid almost like a quilt. Piece the center of it just like I would if I was making maybe a pillow or anything like that. Or you can just do one simple fabric. It's totally up to you. Just get creative and, you know, take it one day at a time. Be sure that you allow yourself the freedom and flexibility of getting creative and enjoying your time with your train case. In my classes on how to reline train cases, I go over all of my tips and tricks of the trade, where to get pieces that you might need, how to overcome obstacles that you might face when you're in it. You can watch the lessons with me as I'm teaching them, or you can come back and watch them anytime. Say you wake up at 3 a.m. and you say, you know what, I want to tackle that train case today. Pull up my videos, watch me work with you, just you and me in your crafting space at 3 a.m. which honestly sounds like the best 3 a.m. ever. I love working at night. And that's why my company is named Neon Moon Sewing Company, because I get my creative juices flowing under the light of a neon moon. And I hope that you do too. I'm just a night owl kind of person. What I want to leave you with today is you can do it. You can overcome the fear of creating something new, end up on the other side and look back and say, look what I have done. Really, you are capable, you are ready, and you're adaptable. Keep your mind open and set your eyes on the horizon, because I know that once you dive into relining a train case, you will fall in love with them. Thank you guys so much for being a part of my lesson today, and I hope to see you dive into it. I would love for you to tag me on any of the social media platforms that you use at Neon Moon Sewing Co. And I would love to see everything. Please, please, please share your finished products with me. Ask me questions, engage with me, because I am here to support you every step of the way. Thank you so much and have a truly blessed day.